So okay, looking at the picture will give you the kind of feelings of unstoppable fight, or in other words, you can think of something like continuous fight, a kind of fight that you need to have without resting, without laziness, without any pauses. You need to push yourself so hard, okay, every day in order to get the best out of yourself, or in order to fight your inner self. So we have a very good idiom, okay, a very good idiom. The very first one, that is one stone, three birds. One stone, three birds. So right here, looking at the picture, we can never ever imagine the kind of saying that reflects the picture, because the original meaning of the picture right here is us, is people, is human beings. Okay, everybody in this world helps each other to fight against this pandemic, this epidemic of COVID-19. So right here, okay, looking at the picture, it doesn't demonstrate the meaning of a saying one stone, three birds. But right here, we just want you guys to imagine beyond its original meaning. So looking at the picture originally, we can see the fight of human beings against this epidemic. But looking beyond this picture's meaning, we will think of one of the famous sayings, one stone, three birds. So it's like one stone, three birds. It's like in your life, whatever you do, okay, whatever you do, you need to find your purpose. What is the purpose of this action? What is the purpose of this behavior, of this attitude, for example? And if you can find your purpose, you will give yourself three options in order to experience your own failures, disappointments, devastations, okay, altering until you achieve your target. So we have a good saying, one stone, three birds again. It's like you have prepared a very good strategy for yourself to get your own act together, so that you can achieve, so that you can succeed. So after a good preparation for strategies and detailed steps, once you start to do something, you will get every purpose of yours successfully. Yeah, that is the reason we have a good saying, one stone, three birds. So if I have a purpose, I will get my purpose. I will get my purpose immediately, in order to prove to myself that I am still useful to myself. I understand myself, and I will get my own act in order to get myself to the next stage of development, because I don't want to stand still. I don't want to, like, okay, stand and sit still without any movements, without any developments. So one stone, three birds. I will aim at, okay, three current targets. And this is the reason why once I start to act with my careful and deep preparations and strategies, I will get all my targets accomplished. This is the meaning of the saying, one stone, three birds. So right now I have done my lecture based on the second way of radio talk method class. Radio talk method class is conveyed this second way, which is picture showing and lecture delivered verbally. So right now it's your turn to show me your perspectives based on the saying, one stone, three birds. And please look at the picture, imagine a story about your life, imagine a story about your friends, related to your families, and the kinds of things in your life, to reflect the implications of one stone, three birds. So right now it's your turn. I'm going to pause the recording, since I have already finished lecturing based on a very first saying. Right now, pausing the recording. And we are going to set up the time for Miss Phương Lam, okay, Miss Trang. So right here, I'll give you guys, Miss Trang is going to have like 3 minutes for speaking. So right here, 1, 2, 3, let's start. Miss Trang, please show me.
Okay, thank you. Well, I want to show my idea about the idiom, the first idiom. In my current job, the most difficult is collecting data. Normally, I have to spend many time in collect data from many sites, and they also send to me late and do not correct it. Regarding to attendance list, bonus, and commission, that's the reason why I make mistake in monthly payroll. Then I suggest them a new rule to send data and set a deadline for it. I also noted the clear rule and training for the person who been in charge at each side to make sure they understand clearly. And by setting up the clear rule and training, I can resolve three problems: incorrect data, timeline, and control the result of the monthly payroll. I really killed three birds with one stone. Yes, that's my idea.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Trang. First of all, I think that you have successfully trained your voice in your speaking or presentation. In fact, right here, since you guys know that voice, okay, voice is very important once we speak. We don't need to raise our voice so high or lower our voice so low. We just need to keep our voice, okay, stable like this, not too high, not too loud, not too low, in order to keep the listeners feel not stressed by our voice. So it's like we need to spend lots of time training our voice. It's not like, okay, today I'm going to train my voice. No, it's impossible. You need to have lots of presentations, lots of speaking, like self-speaking at home in order to train your voice. So this is the way, and Miss Zhang has successfully delivered the presentation in a very good voice, not too loud, not too high, not too low, very stable voice. This kind of voice should be maintained in the class, okay, from now on. Thank you so much, Miss Jen. And second of all, please try to practice the pronunciation to you, to Miss Zhang in particular, and to the whole class in general. We have already given you, okay, the audio book once again, reminding you, yeah. So please try to train yourself, try to train the pronunciation every day in order to keep, okay, the rhythm of English words. Okay, you need to feel the words so you can speak, so you can feel more interested in speaking or expressions or presentations. If you cannot pronounce, if you don't feel good about pronunciation, you will quit. You will quit presentations. So right here, Miss Zhang has already spoken up. Anybody else? Voice up, please. If you cannot deliver, okay, the presentation based on the very first saying, one stone, three birds, I'm going to move on to the second saying. Speaking of the devil, here she comes. So right now, me going on to the next saying. Speaking of the devil, here she comes. But in Vietnamese, we have a very good saying like nhắc đến Tào Tháo là Tào Tháo đã đến rồi. Như vậy khi mà nói trong tiếng Việt là nói là mình dùng cái từ Tào Tháo, nhưng mà trong tiếng Anh thì người ta lại chuyển hóa là speaking of the devil, here she comes, or speaking of the devil, here he comes. This is the way. So right here, speaking of COVID-19, here it comes again. Okay, so many times, so many times in 2 years. And speaking of the devil today, okay, here she comes. Okay, the heavy rain in Saigon, for example. So right here we have a very hilarious saying. Speaking of the devil, here she comes. So once you feel irritated by something, you just want to shut that thing down, which means You want you want that thing to be out of your life immediately. You don't want to have any hearings about it. You don't want to listen to anybody mentioning its name. That is the reason why we start to have a feeling of irritations. Once I feel irritated, I don't want to talk to anybody else. I even don't want to talk to the closest person besides me. I will have a saying in my head, like speaking of her, here she comes again. So once you use the word speaking of something, here she comes, or here he comes, or here somebody comes, it is a kind of feeling that you want to deliver to that kind of person, which is, I don't want to hear from you. But since you show up like this, since you appear right in front of my eyes, I need to listen to you because I need to here. That is a respectful act of me. So once you use the phrase speaking of somebody, you will give the the listeners, or you will give the person who is going to speak to you a kind of feeling like you don't want to talk to them, but you have to, because they are going to speak and somebody is going to listen for sure. That is the role in conversation speaking, a listener and a speaker. Nobody can speak, okay? Nobody can speak at the same time in the conversation. So right here, the roles of people in conversation speaking, a listener and a speaker. So that is it. Two sides of benefit in conversation speaking. So let's come to the saying, speaking of the devil, here she comes. Right now, looking at the picture, yes, this old brand picture again. We see that speaking of the fight, we need to fight until we feel something is going on. Because without fighting, without competing, you will not have any feelings of awareness. You will not have any feelings of consciousness. But okay, one of the most important factor in our life is our consciousness. What is consciousness right here? I am conscious of speaking to you because I know what I need to say to you. I know what I need to express to you in English in order to help you guys understand the picture and understand the saying based on the implications of the picture, not the original meaning of the picture. So you have to be conscious so you can have feelings about the present actions. You need to be conscious so you know who you are and you know what kind of act you need to perform in order to get success in your hand. So speaking of the devil, she comes, or he comes within myself. For example, I set my heart to fight against COVID-19, lock myself at home. Okay, for example, just an example, guys. And speaking of the devil inside me, here he comes. I just want to go out. I just want to be a riot. I just want to get myself heard by many people. I just want to shout out. I just want to scream. Okay, that I don't want to be locked inside my home anymore. I want to go traveling. I want to meet new people. I want to cooperate with many kinds of people in my life in order to get my work done. So speaking of the devil inside myself, once that kind of person comes, I will have to fight within myself. And one of the hardest fight in our life is the fight against ourselves, because we have a very good saying to go along with a saying, speaking of the devil, that is, fighting yourself is victory. So if you can fight against yourself, you will win any battles in this life, because every kind of human being, every kind of person in this world has her or his own gift, or his own contribution. We don't need to be inspired by anybody else. Use inspirations from other people to motivate ourselves, but don't be that person. So speaking of the inspirers, please notice one thing. We need to be inspired to get ourselves up. We need to be inspired to get motivations, because mostly everybody, okay, we say that I don't have any motivations. I just want to see somebody, or I just want to listen to somebody who can help me to get over this situation. So right here, speaking of the inspirers, I need the inspirer in order to inspire me to get up on my feet. So I can feel motivated enough to take actions. So that is it for inspiration. So once you speak of the devil inside you, you need to remind yourself that no fights worth it. Only the fights with yourself really worth it. Okay. And speaking of the inspirers in our life, we need to know that inspirations is only okay one step in the whole process. If I feel inspired, that is good, because that is the kind of feeling that I'm supposed to have in order to get myself in the fight, in order to get myself be conscious, in order to get myself be aware of the fact. So I'm not lazy anymore. So I'm not like being a couch potato anymore. I'm going to fight. I'm going to be enthusiastic. I'm going to be determined enough to okay, get myself wake up and get myself okay fight every fight worth be fighting okay for myself. So speaking of the devil inside ourselves, the devil within ourselves is the worst devil ever. Nobody can help us to fight ourselves. So right here, looking at the saying, speaking of the devil, I have just illustrated to you two big pictures. The very first picture is the devil within yourself. The second big picture is the devil within the inspirers, because people are inspired by the inspirers a lot in this life, but they forget they need to listen to their own voice, because we are not robots. We are not. We can't be duplicated to be that person. We cannot forget ourselves to build another version of the inspirers. You are inspired by a good teacher, but don't be that teacher. You be inspired by that teacher. You need to learn the kind of talent, the kind of knowledge from that teacher. But you need to act by yourself. Act by yourself. Don't copy the teacher's actions. Don't copy the teacher's coolness. Just listen to yourself and get the knowledge, get the talent of the teacher to be yours only. That is the biggest picture. That is the general picture. I need you guys to see based on the second saying, speaking of the devil, here she comes. So once again, to sum up, speaking of the devil within yourself. The first picture, speaking of the inspirer within again the inspirer himself. That is the second picture. So right now I'm going to set the alarm clock for another 5 minutes. Let's see how far and how much you guys can present to me based on the second saying. Me okay pausing the recording once again.